We asked our client 10 years ago about sustainability. Then they will say, yeah, it's a buzzword. But if you ask me today, everybody believes that it is important. It is something that they have to do something about it.
I think sustainability is very much also about the ability of a business to sustain itself. Thinking about your business in the long term, making decisions, right, for you to pivot.
In terms of sustainability, how do you define it? Sustainability, your ability to sustain.
Welcome back to the Financial Coconut Podcast. I'm your host, Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut. And today, we are finally at a new place. Okay, so if you follow our channel, you know that we've been moving around, we're going to different places. Finally, we settled in our new place. So I'm very, very happy to be in studio with UOB. Right? It's a privilege. It's our first recording and you are here.
Thank you.
So before we begin, maybe we can go one round to just introduce yourself, so that our audience get to know you a little bit. Yeah, maybe Eric, you want to start?
Okay, my name is Eric. I'm from UOB. I am the head of Group Commercial Banking. So what I really do, I look after a group of clients that are predominantly SME and mid-cap clients. And we are in many countries in ASEAN. As you know, UOB is headquartered here in Singapore. We are almost 90 years old already.
Wow.
Bank, yes. And we are in Malaysia. We are in Thailand. We do businesses in Indonesia and Vietnam as well. We do have an office in Hong Kong, and then we are also a subsidiary in Greater China. So I think we are very comprehensive in terms of our franchise. We are a subsidiary in every country that we operate in. As you know, SME and mid-cap is a big part of the bank's business. We do business with all the SME here across this region. Our focus is really on ASEAN. ASEAN is where we want to do business. We are really looking at intra-ASEAN trade, about $650 to $700 billion kind of wallet.
Oh, that's big.
Yes. And then within Greater China is another $600-700 billion. So together, this whole region, we're looking at about 1.3-1.4 trillion kind of a trade. So we want to position UOB as the bank for ASEAN. We want to build the future of ASEAN. And this is where we are very excited about, working with our clients here today, both Eric So and Chun Sing, to be able to share a little bit more on our sustainability journey together with our clients.
Yeah. Too many Erics today. So Eric, you want to introduce yourself, for our audience that don't know you?
Hi, thanks everybody. My name is Eric. I'm a construction worker from Samoa Corporation and who happens to lead the company. Anyway, Samo started as a logistic and a transportation company in 1975. Our founder, basically, they are lorry drivers who happens to own a truck during the HDB starting to build a lot of houses. The three friends started to gather together and then do a lot of logistics transport, material transport for the HDB building. HDB is gearing up more. They need more trucks, so they gather friends together and build a company as a logistic company. In the early 80s, they actually started into asphalt businesses. They are the operator of a certain asphalt company who actually closed down already. And then from there, they started the business. I came in the company in 1997, 98, fresh, know nothing about construction because this is not my discipline. When I joined the company, they threw me into also a sales role by selling stone and rocks. That's my history.
Nice. For all this that don't know you, you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Chun Sing. I'm the Group General Manager for Moneymax Financial Services. We like to position ourselves as an alternative financier in the Southeast Asia region. For the audience at home who may not really know who we are, right? I think
unlikely. Everybody come out of MRT, they see Moneymax.
Yeah, I think the one that everyone's familiar with actually is the pawn shops that we have because they tend to be around the area. What is beyond that actually is that the company has about 3 main business segments. We have the pawn shops, obviously. Along with the pawn shops is the retail and trading segment, right? We integrate these two business concepts together, right? The whole idea here is to, demystify the entire experience of going to a pawn shop. So I think across Singapore and Malaysia, we have about 100 plus touch points. So I think we have a fairly extensive pawnbroking network. Apart from that, we are also in what we call the secured lending businesses. We do automotive financing, real estate financing, and a bit of SME financing as well. Yeah, so I think that is what we do in a nutshell.
Okay, fair. Then what have you got to do with sustainability? It's true that in construction, in the built environment, there's a lot of this sustainability thing going on.
Yeah.
Rightfully, I think that's the space.
Yep.
But why are you here? It's like what has sustainability got to do with you, your business, all that?
I think there are many facets to sustainability, right? One of the areas that everyone always looks at is the environmental aspect.
Yeah,
which
green
is,
now.
green one,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because that's the one that everyone's pushing for, right? But if you take a look ESG, right, I think the social aspect is something that we call ourselves very strongly on. The central mission for us is always to provide access to credit to the Southeast Asia region. Right, that is what we hope to achieve through our lending businesses. So I think with that philosophy, that's why you see there's a theme that runs through all our business units.
Okay, fair. So it's not just about the environment.
Yes.
Okay. I get it, because sometimes when they ask me to fill out the vendor form, then they ask me how sustainable I am. I say I'm very sustainable. All my guys telecommute, like we don't even use any.
Same,
everything's
same,
digital. So how much?
I also use LED lights.
Yeah, it's like everything I can do, I do already.
Yeah,
right? How much
exactly.
more sustainable you want me to be, right?
Exactly.
So, but okay, that's why we have a great panel. We can elaborate on like this whole idea. But I think the perennial question is still, how do you be sustainable, without sacrificing business growth? Because I think that's what all the tauques want. So Eric, maybe you want to kind of start us through, like what are some of the things you guys found out in your study? What do tauques look for? All that.
Okay, as you know, we do this UOB business outlook study every year. And then we really reach out to all our clients across the region, largely the SMEs. And then we ask them, how do they feel about the outlook? What are key points that they are facing? What are the key issues they are facing in doing their business going forward? So we found 4 very interesting or very distinctive trends. And number one, obviously, we all feel it today, is the cost of living. I think the inflation cost, the cost of living, a lot of our clients are really feeling it, both from the aspect of procuring of material, procurement, as well as in some countries, maybe in Hong Kong, the cost of borrowing is actually quite high because of the interest rate environment. So I think that it's affecting everybody. And given what is happening in the Middle East, given what happened in Ukraine, I think the supply chain disruption has actually exacerbated the cost of doing business, and that everybody is feeling it. The second trend that we found that is quite evident is that a lot of our SME, in fact, 8 out of 10, said that they have some idea, they have some plans, or they are looking to expand overseas into this region, whether it's in ASEAN or in China or even further away. So everybody has some plan or already started to do so. So regionalization, expansion is quite evident among the SME that we talk to.
Just on that, right? Are we digging into internationalization to manage the cost struggles here, or are we trying to capture an opportunity?
I think it's both. I think SMEs are looking into new markets. They're looking at how do they grow their business, and they want to feel that they, the ASEAN, as I mentioned earlier, the 650 billion, 700 billion of intra-ASEAN trade provides an opportunity for all of our SMEs to be able to capture that and to expand their market, expand their products and services. The second one, as you correctly say, I think the cost of doing business is very high here. So a lot of SME are looking at whether they can move some of the operation into a less cost place, and then at the same time to be able to capture the local market. So it's a mix of both, and that is something that has been happening for a long time. I think it's just sort of increased the momentum in the last few years, especially post-COVID. Then the third one that we found that was quite evident is about digitalization. I think Chun Seng will talk a lot more about that. Yeah. So we are looking at increasing trend of people trying to digitalize their way they do business. How do we deliver their goods and services in a more efficient way? How do we connect better? How do we reach out to our customers through digital channels? And how do we then also within the bank improve our service of delivery through digital? So one whole big range of digitalization initiatives that are going on, both from the government push as well as our clients, SME, who themselves are embarking on the digitalization journey. So the last one is obviously the sustainability. In fact, we found very interesting that all of our SME thinks that sustainability is important, but not many of our SME knows what to do with it. And many of SME know that it is something that they need to embark on, but how is the difficult part. I think that's where today we would like to share some ideas, we share some success story, we have a bit of storytelling so that, we can tell you
A bit of inkling, right?
how we can work together to bring you through the journey. So I guess at the end of the day, these 4 big trends are quite evident in the study that we make. And given what is happening today, I think this fast-changing world, climate change, and all this inflationary pressure that we are facing today, life has to go on. So I think Tauke and the SME are looking at ways to plan forward. How do they then navigate through this very difficult environment, this headwind that they're going through right now?
I love how you're so practical about it.
Yeah,
Life has to go on.
Yeah, life have to go on. Yeah, yeah, and
Yeah.
make money at the same time.
Of course. Yeah.
So I guess this is something that we've been doing with the SME for a while. So I thought today would be a good opportunity to talk a little bit more.
Definitely. And Eric, you had a very affirmative reaction, when Eric say sustainability is important.
Yeah.
And I don't want it to become like a mantra, like it's like a high ground because everybody says sustainability is important. So you also say sustainability is important, right? How does it actually look like for you?
Well, I think sustainability, this word is very big.
Yeah, very big. Everything can bao out inside. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more with Eric. So I think in terms of sustainability, how do you define it? Everybody, every tauke or every business leader, every environment is different. Sustainability, your ability to sustain. The business world now is so different from pre-COVID, very disruptive, isolated, and also very sensitive now. Disruptive is definitely post-COVID. Whatever we used to do is all changed. Isolated, look at supply chain. When countries are facing their pandemic, Singapore has limited resources. We need to go and find ways to get resources doing. Whatever you do today and tomorrow, the escalation in cost, the manpower shortage, the compliance, all these are so sensitive to whatever changes that being happen outside.
Yeah.
So these are the things that when you look at the whole picture with sustainability in your sector, what are you looking at? For me, construction, now construction, we no longer call ourselves construction, we call it a very nice word, built environment.
Very atas.
Very atas.
Yeah. Built
and
environment.
under built environment sector, there are many categories. So coming from my sector, I'm not a builder. I'm not a glamorous guy. We are always on the roads. We are doing things that are different from other people. So sustainability is really something you have to really examine yourself clearly, the point where you are, what you want to do, how you're going to do it.
So how did yours start? It sounds like a big question. So what's
very good question. Today I also keep digging my head. So at that time, I think what is the in thing? The in thing will be talking about recycling. From there, it progress into green. Then from green, change to many other sexy new words.
Now it's ESG.
So ESG is the latest
ESG
sexy new word.
I don't want to elaborate too much, but you see, as 20 years of progress, we started almost our recycling activity in 2005. Construction, and at that time, not many people want to do it. It's so easy to get materials. I just buy from our neighboring country. We can get a material to start to build a building or do a roads. And along the way, there's a disruption. In the year 2005, there's a material shortage in Singapore. Due to the ban of our neighboring country, construction comes to a stop. So there are many things that we have to understand as you progress, the world change. Where do we want to go to? What sustainable thing are we talking about?
Fair. What does need mean? You say like, we need to talk about this. We need to talk about this. Like, where is this need coming from? Who is forcing you to talk about it?
Okay, for us, it is something that in our DNA, we want to do something different from others. Say, for example, 20 years back, 2004, 3, 4, 5, we started our recycling activity. In construction, where got people want to do recycling one? But we thought that there's certain elements in the construction demolition way we can reuse back to save some of material. So we started from the angle. And it was so difficult because I'm now trying to find some alternative solution for what is we are doing now. And people are having that kind of mindset, you're using recycle, it should be cheaper. It's very difficult. So opportunity comes, cite the example, when the neighboring country banned the material, suddenly there's an influx of people asking
everything
for
also used, right?
Everything also can. Once you have this material or you have this so-called alternative, what's next? So we embark on research and development, look at new materials, alternative to replace what we are doing in our construction sector. So when you say it is a want or a needs, it depends on the situation. For us, it's always we want to do something that is good for the industry to help the industry in a better way of conservation of material, natural material. Sustainable coming in.
I'm just trying to dig into like, does it mean that, okay, we look at the opportunity here, then that means sustainability actually also can make good money?
It's very difficult. And why should we do that?
Yeah.
Basically, I'm looking at saving my cost. When I say opportunity come, what happened if our neighboring country never ban the material?
Fair.
Okay. So the things will continue. Then we will be pushing harder. Then the next way of thing is coming is that, now we have to look at green, carbon emission, carbon study, all these things.
This is not a rant session, don't worry.
No. So when I say there's an evolvement,
yeah.
So you need to catch the way of this evolvement.
Yeah.
And how you have to move faster.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair.
That is where I'm coming from.
Just now you were saying the sustainable, people are not there yet, in the sense that companies these days are just looking at surviving.
Yeah, of course. My personal feeling is that there are many SME in construction sector that wanted to find a way to go into the trend of this path of this sustainability. But many of them don't know where to start, how to start, when to start, where to start. So their concern now is more on survival. Rather than, I need to cough up some certain expenses, additional expenses to go and embark in the path of this sustainability. So where to find this balance? As much as they want to do, but now manpower costs increase. Everything will cost of living increase.
Yeah.
So how? What can they do?
I get it.
Maybe I put it a little bit in this context. We asked our client maybe 10 years ago about sustainability. Then they would say, yeah, it's a buzzword. Everybody's talking about it. You know, Chun Seng has said sustainability, you have the environmental portion, you have the social portion, and you also have the governance portion, so ESG. But if you ask me today, when we talk to all our SME clients, as we have also shown in the survey, everybody believe that it is important. It is something that they have to do something about it. The journey that they need to start on. Because it has been proven and it has been also really show that their stakeholder require them to have some kind of sustainability in their business agenda. So not whether is their principle that they represent a product, the consumer that they sell to, the buyer, or even like Eric So, who works for certain government agency that require them to use certain type of product, or maybe even Chun Seng, the way that you deliver to your customers and the way that you have engaged your client. They will look at certain companies, whether they had that sustainability agenda in them. And then the second thing I would say also the fact that increasingly our young consumer today, having sustainability as one of the key buying decisions. They will look at whether your products are recyclable, whether you are looking at a traceable product, whether I can trace. Where do you make your product? Do they have child labor? Do they have certain environmental impact that they do? So it's not the same as the older generation. People just buy things off the shelf. Today, the decision-making process has got a big sustainability angle in it.
Really?
So I think it is important to realize that I often joke or I often talk to our client, our client always say, hey, do you charge me cheaper if I'm sustainable? And I say, yeah.
Yeah, that's an important question.
Actually, from the bank's point of view, is that if you don't have a sustainability journey, or at least you're not doing something about it, I think you'll be irrelevant one day.
Yes.
And actually you become riskier. In the sense that it is something that you need to think about as business owner, as business operator. Then the next thing I would say is that it's not about just switching off the lights when it's not in use or turning into a green product. What I really say that is, how do you achieve net zero? Is what we want to achieve. Everybody, that's where the government, the COP, and all the big agency talking today is really about achieving net zero. It is not possible for us to not emit carbon. Okay, today we need to recognize that. How do we then achieve a net zero pathway? And net zero means that whatever you do to try and reduce carbon footprint. And that's the gist of it to me for sustainability. So for SME, it only means three things as far as all the SME owners, operators. Number one, how do you reduce carbon footprint? Okay, so you must be doing something to reduce your carbon footprint, whatever way you are doing, whether installing solar panel, what Samo has done, whether you have doing recycling, whether you have invest into digitalization to save the paper that you are using today and your delivery of channels. And at the same time, various business processes to reduce carbon footprint. So that's number one. So number two, after you have reduced them, how do you measure them? Which is the more important aspect of sustainability, because at the end of the day, you need to measure them. You measure them credibility, whether in terms of tonnage of carbon dioxide, how much have you reduced? And then the third part is obviously the governance part, the reporting part, which actually is getting very important. I'm coming to that because not many people realize that. Recently we did a big conference. I was having a fireside chat with the chairman, and today, by 2027, all the public company are required to have some kind of sustainability report in their disclosure for public company, and even for private company of certain sizes, you need by law, ACRA, that you need to have some way to report in terms of your sustainability work and journey and how do you achieve a net zero. So I think this is something that you need to start doing some work around now. 2027 is not very far away. So you need to do some work now. You need to start the journey. If you don't, then I think you may be rushing for it. So I think that three element. First, you need to do something about it to reduce carbon footprint at the end of the day. Number two is then how do you measure them, in a more credible way. And when people can accept your report in terms of your measurement, and then how do you then do the reporting? I think these are the big trend, the big elements that you need to consider, big consideration. And this is how UOB can come in to help, because we work with our client on that. We sit down with our client, like Jun Seng and then Eric So, and say, okay, as part of your business plan, do you have sustainability journey? And then if you don't have, then you better start thinking about. So that awareness and that roadmap you need to start to build. So UOB developed this, what we call a sustainability compass. So a sustainability compass, I think we all use that now. We encourage our client to do that. We train our bankers to work with our client. So it's actually a bespoke questionnaire. Simple questionnaire. Online, you can do it. All it does is really, for me, as far as SME business is concerned, is sustainability make simple. No need to be too gay cap, trying to be so high.
Extensive report.
Yeah, and we work with our SME owners, our business owner, and then we take them through where they are in terms of their journey. Whether are you at the infancy stage, are you already have done quite a fair bit, and then what else do you need to do? And then we will point you the right direction. And what happened is that as we talk to our SME Tauke, a lot of them tell us that, it's expensive, it's costly, and
it's true, right?
Yeah. And being the size of SME, they typically don't have the financial resources and even the human resources to do that.
Of course.
So we often joke that they don't have the benefit of what big corporation have or big MNC have, this chief sustainability officer.
Yeah. They always go for talks.
They don't have the benefit of having appointing
success,
or hiring one. So what they typically do is that they will then arrow a finance manager or finance guy, you become also responsible for sustainability. So I think that's where we recognize that we work with them, and then we use a sustainability compass to work with the company who is ever in charge. So at least you start the roadmap. You start, where do you want to start? Then we can work with you along the way. So internally, we have a few programs. We have some U program that the bank has. So within this U program, so if you are in the solar industry, you are in the automobile industry, you are in the construction industry, you are in certain industry, we have certain program in the bank that we have really built up the ecosystem. So you come onto our program and we will work with you on the various partners that we work with, including some of the big MNCs that we work with. And then we will then work with you to try and work through your journey with you. And then more importantly, this ecosystem partner can also help you to provide a very credible sustainability report on how much carbon dioxide in terms of tonnage you have reduced. So I think that is very useful. I think Eric So can share a little bit more. We went through that together. We worked together in some of his recycle aggregate. We reduced the carbon footprint by doing all the recycling investment. And then we also did the solar panel for him. So he can now credibly tell his stakeholders and publish and say, okay, I have reduced how much carbon dioxide in a year. And this is my journey to transit to net zero for X year. So I think that's what we want. And if you are in the industry that we don't have the ecosystem, we work with you to point you to the right government agency, to work with them, to be able to, have certain grant or work with them on certain aspect of it where they can help you on the journey, but we work with you. So I think these are some of the pointers that I thought, it would be interesting to share. So we keep building our ecosystem, and then we keep increasing our partners so that we can work with our SME partners together. So banking is not just about, financial resources. It's also about going through the journey with the client on this sustainability journey to achieve a net zero at the end of the day.
Hey Coconuts, I hope you're enjoying today's episode. I personally love the candor, but I do think that a lot of SME bosses and management are still kind of on the fence about this whole sustainability movement thing. So why not learn a little bit more about it? Check out the UOB Business Outlook Study 2024, and the bank has been doing this study for many years. So whether you are leading an MNC team or you are SME Tauke, I think you will find some interesting insights within this study. So check out the link in the description box below for the UOB Business Outlook Study 2024. I hope you stay ahead of the curve and benefit from this sustainability movement. Okay, now back to the show. But you were talking about stakeholders, right? And I do think a lot of these so-called sustainability effort is really coming from the supply chain, the governance, because we sign up to some sort of a environment, agreement, then it just kind of get pushed down to everybody, all the different contractors, and kind of move down that path. And that has seen a lot of shift, right? But do consumers actually make a purchase that as a result of, sustainability? I think a small fraction do, but maybe do your consumers look at you as, oh, I'm a sustainable, then you stand out from your competitors? Let's share your point of view.
I think the accurate answer is to say that there is a growing proportion, right, of consumers.
So the direction is there. Okay.
Who are starting to become more savvy and are more conscious about the things that they buy. We see in our industry as well. We start seeing more people looking to buy pre-loved items, right?
Yeah.
And going back to Eric's point, actually, both Eric's point, right? We are all in the business to make money, right? That is the fundamental of why we operate businesses, right? And I would say that sustainability, I think for better or for worse, it's often associated to cost.
And that's a fair position, right?
Yeah, I think
but we're trying to shift that discussion, right?
But I would like to put it to everyone that you should take a look, and this is our personal belief, right? That sustainability is the framework that it provides, right? It's actually a way for you to build your business for the long term. And one of these, again, to give you an example, right? Don't look at it from a cost perspective, look at it from the demand perspective, right? As consumers start to become more conscious, right, and more savvy, right, you have to pivot the materials that you bring in, right, the supplies that you bring in, the inventory that you bring in. And now this affects the B2C side, which is me, for instance, I'm a retailer. But don't forget, my suppliers are the B2B side, right? It's the same, right? When the consumers demand for us to act in a certain manner, we will likewise fact check with our suppliers as well. And that's how the whole ecosystems eventually will start moving towards it. I think it's inevitable trend that, you might as well start moving towards.
So it's no longer a good to have. It's a must.
Yeah, but I would also like to put it out there that we should run our business practically.
How do you reconcile that?
I think you should look at it not in terms of a binary thing like, oh, I'm sustainable, I'm not. It should be, I am on the way to becoming more sustainable. And I think often what SMEs, for instance, should consider, right, is to consider where you are now. If you're fighting to survive, maybe that thing takes a backseat. I'm not saying you disregard it, right? I'm saying maybe allocate a little less to that portion, right? But always try to improve. To give an example, right? Just very simple, basic example. I see if I have a fleet of 10 lorries that are diesel, I could very well change all 10. But if I change all 10, I'm cash tight, I'll die. I could do one at a time, two at a time. It's that commitment to being sustainable, right? And it's a journey that you have to move along. The management has to have a clear idea of what you want to do. I think more often than not, what happens is that sustainability is just a buzzword. They don't really know what they want. For us, for instance, we are quite clear, right, that our businesses, right, the nature of our businesses may not necessarily have such a big tangible impact on the environment because we're not building, right? We are selling. What we can do, of course, is to minimize our carbon footprint, like what Eric mentioned. And so for us, it's about the other things we're doing. Digitization, for instance, is something that we have been doing for the past, I would say, decade. My experience is that it's a never-ending journey.
Once you start, then you want to automate. Once you automate, you want Gen AI.
Yeah,
right?
correct. So it's never-ending, right? You're always trying to do something more, something new. But the key idea here is that the management has to be clear on what you want to do, right? And then you have to find a way to distill it down to simple deliverables that your team can do it. If not, everyone would just be running around in a circle. Nobody would know what's going on. Yeah.
Okay. Fair.
But I think absolutely Chun Seng is correct. I think it's not a binary thing. I think even the banks are not looking at it as a binary decision. So we cannot say tomorrow don't do certain businesses or we don't finance certain industry. I think that would be quite disastrous. And it's the wrong thing to do in my personal opinion. But what Chun Seng has correctly said is the transition. How do we then, help the company transit? How do we then start the journey? The key is you've got to start the journey. So if you start the journey, then we work with you along the journey. And where do you want to get to the end point is then, how do you then be able to quantify how much carbon dioxide that you have reduced to achieve a net zero pathway? And that's where we want to work with our client. It could take 10 years, it could take 5 years for certain companies, or it could take longer, much longer. And I think that is where we take a very practical approach. It's not something that we switch off and say, okay, this is blacklist, this is blacklist. It's really, have you started your journey? And you have started your journey good, then where do you end? How do you want to end as a net zero?
Yeah, fair. But I want to bring it to, once again, the survival question, right? Because that is all the Tauke's care about this, right? So like you were saying, if let's say some of your competitors today, they enter this thing and then they're thinking about it, but they are barely surviving, how would you recommend them to do it?
Recommend my competitor.
Yeah. Advice. Yeah.
No, I
Share
can't
some
say.
thoughts. Right?
My personal view, I think also I support and agree with what they say, what Erickson and Twin Sing is saying. My personal view is also in other ways that the awareness towards this trend, that awareness in a scale of 0 to 1, how aware are you that you want to take this step? Then you look at your priority. What is your priority now? Your priority is to survive, or your priority now, I can move ahead in terms of sustainability practices. In all this, you need help. You must know where you are. Focus on what you want to do. Dissect this whole chain of event, the process of being able to sustain, moving to sustainability. You need to dissect at which stage you can move progressively rather than follow the trend, just jump into it. You're getting nowhere. Okay, but having to say that, you need to start. It may take you 2 years or 5 years, so be it. But today, the sustainability, I think for us, for my company-wise, I think in this journey-wise, we are very proud to say that we have done something proud for ourselves. You just look at our new HQ that's being built and commissioned already. It is not just a net zero energy building. It is a positive energy building. It is something that is we are breaking the boundary. And how do we achieve that? Just for layman, for you, positive energy building is we produce more than we consume. Whatever energy from the solar we bought, from the system we engage, we produce more than we consume. And that positive have an impact in terms of long term. So I think the priority that not everybody can do a positive energy building. And all these come from your practices, whether it's digitalization. Yeah, you can say it's saving some paper, but I look at it is how to improve your process.
Yeah.
These are things that we look at in terms of priority, in terms of focus, what you want to do.
Fair.
Yeah.
So if I can just add Eric So's point, I think having done so much and then they have already confidently said that they have achieved positive.
I mean, they built a whole building.
Yeah. I mean, in terms of energy, that they are producing more that they consume. So the next phase is really about, okay, now that I've done it, then how do I quantify that in terms of carbon dioxide tonnage? So that is now the new areas that people need to consider now because of the disclosure requirement by the regulators. And it's already happening in Singapore. I mentioned earlier, 2027, you need to disclose. You need to have some kind of sustainability report, which require you to tell all your stakeholders how much carbon dioxide have you reduced? How much carbon dioxide are you able to save more in order for you to achieve a net zero effect? So I think that part of it is something that while the company has done a lot to reduce footprint, to achieve positive energy, you need to then now quantify it and then you need to then report it. Singapore is a front runner in the disclosure for sustainability. I am very sure the regulators in the region will follow very soon.
Fair.
Yeah.
I want to expand that a little bit, on the reporting and the survival side, right? So because your coverage is big, different size of SMEs, right? And we all know SMEs come in all shapes and forms, right? So from a very easy kind of overview, right? Aga, what size should they really start to entertain this in a serious way? So from a business standpoint, because you say we must get, survival, we must get to a good position in some ways, right? So give a blanket advice to
so
our
I think for
entrepreneurs.
bigger companies that are listed now to do the disclosure. So I think that given the higher governance requirement for a public company, there is another one that you need to do. So you may have to form a sustainability committee for what it is, and then you have to start thinking about how do you then do the reporting. So I think public company of a certain size, maybe turnover 100 million and above, you should start thinking about that quickly because that is where the reporting requirement. And then if you have businesses in the region, you may require to do the reporting here in Singapore, and then eventually the region will follow up. So I think that's also one area you need to think about. You brought up a very interesting point about survival and things like that. Maybe I just give you a very good example. Today, even construction industry or building industry.
Built environment
industry. So it is an evolving trend now that even the regulators, even you deal with government, if you want to build HDB or you want to build steel, they require to have certain percentage of your steel from recycle, meaning that you need to buy recycled steel. So if you are not doing something about it, if you are not stocking recycled steel, if you are not looking at steels that are made from scraps rather than iron ore, then you may find yourself not be able to compete very effectively. And that is where certain industry may evolve. In the bank, we do a lot of research. We find out what are the new industry that will then emerge because of all this sustainability movement.
So what are the new industries?
It's quite obvious. One is the electric vehicle industry. It's evolving fast. China is a big player, and the people are making lithium battery. And then who are the people who makes the casing for the lithium battery? Who are the people who then try and connect the wires? And these are the new industry that are coming out. If you are a spare part distributor, and if you just focus on ICE, industrial combustion engine, and you never pivot into something that moving towards it, I think you may have to start thinking about it.
And then consumers will experience that question. I was like, this spare part no more already. It's like this thing nobody do already.
So like you ask me, emerging, what about people? It's not just about the car. How about your entire ecosystem, your charger?
Fair.
Somebody who makes a charger, somebody who makes the box for the charger. How do you wire up all this? How do you then do the grid? Is there enough power for me to bring power to the charger, and then how do we commercialize it? How do we make the payment seamless? How do we change the way that we do things differently? So I think it's a whole new industry evolving because of sustainability.
And sometimes it's about using what you have and then reformatting it, right? Adjust your supply chain a bit, adjust your offering a bit, to tap on that trend, right? And I think you had some stuff, right? You guys were doing some things around this.
Yeah, but jumping back to what Eric mentioned, right? I think sustainability, other than the environmental factor, it's very much also about the ability of a business to sustain itself. And if the, macro trend is, say, turning into, more environmentally conscious or savvy consumers or even regulators, right, who start imposing environmental or EV requirements, right? Then as a business owner, you have to be aware of this. Sustainability is about thinking about your business in the long term and making decisions, right, for you to pivot. Because pivoting is definitely a tough thing to do, right? There's a lot of inertia involved. It's a painful process. I'll give you an example. In Singapore, we all know the operating cost is going up. Digitization, yes, it's about, saving paper, blah, blah, blah. But at the core of it is also about streamlining your processes, making it more efficient, hopefully reducing your op costs, your OPEX in the long run. These are things that if you don't think about your business in the long term, I think it's almost definite that you will not make decisions like that to move.
Fair. So any last things you want to add?
2 points just want to share. Number one is really in terms of knowledge sharing. What we have done in terms of what we achieved, we are there to share. In order to kickstart this journey of sustainability in terms of circular economy, what we do actually, we showcase it into our building. And we use this building, our positive energy, is to tell the industry, it can be done. It's how do we do it. Put all your dreams inside there and look at ways to achieve it. And look at supporter people, financial like UOB. They understand where we come from, why we want to do it, and how we want to do it. So they give us a very big support. That is why our building can be up. So if you dissect what we practice into this, there are sections, certain things that really you can do for the SME in this B environment. Second thing I think I want to add on is the word I mentioned earlier on is changing. So there needs to be a more collaborative effort in the sense that it's no longer you do yourself, I do myself. I think there is opportunity, there is also benefits that everybody comes together, share idea, good practices, how we can join hands, whether it's government agency, financial institute, whether it's company planners, engineer, so on and so forth, can come together and look at how we can encourage and push this sustainable effort forward. Else, it is very difficult to say only a large corp can do, then the rest of the small one will slowly fall. So bring them along. As you move along, bring them along, tag them along, collaborate together. Let's go through the journey together. If you want to run fast, you run alone. But if you want to run far, let's run together. So I think this is something in terms of collaborative. I think we need to push it more.
But just one last point, I'll give you a concrete example because we keep talking about changing consumer preferences. Right? I'll give you a real example from our perspective. We retail diamonds. We retail lab-grown diamonds as well. Lab-grown diamonds and diamonds, mine diamonds versus lab-grown diamonds, right? They're essentially diamonds, right? Same thing, right? The only difference is one is grown in a lab, one is mined. But if you take a look at the global consumption of diamonds today, the degree of lab-grown diamonds being consumed in the world, right, is fast rising above and beyond mined diamonds. And I would say that mined diamonds is a product that has been so ingrained in everyone's minds. You buy it for wedding, for gifts, for proposals, whatever you buy it for.
Don't need to, right? It's about anyway.
But if you want to, also feel free to reach out to me.
Yes.
Yeah, right. But even something that is so, I would say, of significance, right, is also being impacted by changing consumer preferences.
Wow. Okay, fair. I didn't know people will even change at this level.
They would. In fact, I think lab grown diamonds are pretty hot. It's in thing now.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. That's cool. Okay. So Eric, last word other than say use UOB.
Must use.
Must use.
Any last thing for entrepreneurs still, on the fence?
First of all, I think it's very enheartening and also enlightening to hear both Eric and Chun Sing about their personal sharing of this sustainability journey. I think it's important. The only thing I'll say that is, as why I totally agree with Eric. So saying that it's not about just a large company is doing. I think it's important that everyone has to do something about it. Some may do more, some may do less. It doesn't matter. But the key is you need to start doing something about it. So we will encourage you have that thinking. You may not be ready today, never mind, but have that in your mind. Have it sometime that when you start to, as you go through the year end and you do your business planning, you do your business review, you do your strategy going forward. And how do we now then look at sustainability to be part of your business planning, business strategy that has an element of sustainability? Big and small, it doesn't matter. Look at where you are, look at what industry you are, and then how your industry will evolve on the back of all this sustainability push. Would you become irrelevant if you don't do it? Because your biggest shareholder or your biggest stakeholder, your biggest customer, or even the social media may also, who you may impact your business if you don't do it. So I think that is something big and small company needs to think about it. Don't have to do it. And some big companies have the benefit of the financial resources to have a chief sustainability officer. It doesn't matter. You don't have to have a CSO. You just need to have somebody to be championing this agenda and then to work with the company, work with the banks, work with UOB like us and stakeholders and start your journey together. I think that is perhaps something that all of our SME owners should start thinking about it.
Okay, so with that, we've come to the end of the podcast. Thank you, gentlemen, for spending time with me, sharing your insights in a practical fashion, right? Not just like atas sustainability, right? Actually making it work. And for all of you tuning in, if you want to, get a little bit more insights into what is going on, you can always go to UOB Business Outlook Study 2024. A lot of things are inside, and you can click on the link below. Okay, with that, thank you for your time. Bye.